I'm Bailey Guy, America's Ideal Miss Tennessee 2023, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hello, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project with you, and my special guest for today is Bailey Guy, who is America's Ideal Miss Tennessee 2023. Bailey, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
It's always exciting to meet a fellow author, which we will get to soon. But why don't you? Because obviously you can tell from my accent, I'm not from around where you are. So tell us where you're coming from. Where are you at the moment?
I am from Nashville, Tennessee, which is in the south part of the United States.
You're so you're from Nashville. So okay.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw my story, but I've recently got a thing for country music and I want to learn to play the fiddle. I play classical violin since I was 2, but I want to learn to play the fiddle and I want to specifically play The Devil Went Down to Georgia.
That's a
So,
great song.
coming from where you are you a country music fan? I feel like even if you weren't, you'd have to say that you were, but country music, yes or no?
I love country music. I was actually listening to I call it Country Country Yeehaw. That's my country music playlist name. And I was actually listening to it while getting ready for the interview today.
So what, in your opinion, what are the best, if someone doesn't like country music or someone wants to get into it, what are your favorite country music tunes?
Oh goodness. I really like Jordan Davis. He's a really good one. Let's see. I like a lot of like country. I started listening to it probably around 2017 or 18. So I'd say
Right.
anything from the past 5 years, I'm pretty good at. I know those pretty well. Jordan Davis, Parker McCollum, those are two of my favorites right now for sure.
Do you know Trace Adkin? Trace Adkins?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
I'm bad with names. But I do like those a lot. Funny story. I had never been to a concert before. And then earlier this year, I was going to go to a Parker McCollum concert in Nashville because there's a lot of country music concerts that happen here. And we went and it was going to be outside and it started raining. And so I still have never been to a concert before, but I tried. I tried that time, but it ended up getting postponed and yeah. So I've never been to a concert before, but I would love to go. It'll definitely be a country music concert when the rain cooperates with me.
I can't believe you've never been to a concert. I mean, most people your age, every second Instagram post I see from them is they're at some
Yeah.
festival. So I figured that
Yeah.
you would have made
Someday.
it. Do you play any instrument yourself? Do you
Oh goodness,
sing?
no. I am the most untalented person ever. I
I
can't sing, I can't dance, I can't play any instruments. I was in the school band in 6th grade and I played the clarinet, but that's the closest I've ever gotten. And I was probably the worst clarinet player in the band.
I I mean, I played in an orchestra in school. Clarinet's not an easy instrument to play.
Yeah.
It's one of
It
the
was
hardest
fun.
ones. It was, so you just played the clarinet, decided that's it, can't do it, and you've never played an instrument since? Not some drums,
Yeah.
guitar, anything?
I tried to play the ukulele at one point. I got a ukulele for Christmas a few years ago. That didn't work out. That worked out the same as the clarinet did. Not too well.
Okay, so then in any talent sections, you won't be singing or dancing or playing any instrument, then I take it.
No, I used to compete in talent a few years back, and because within the Miss America organization, there's outstanding teen, which is the teen division, and so that does
Mhm.
have talent. And so I was competing in that organization for a few years, and because I have such a lack of talent, I decided to be a ventriloquist. So I had a puppet. Her name was Priscilla. She was a poodle, and that's kind of just like my party trick now, honestly.
I mean, I think you're being unkind to yourself when you say you're not talented. You may not be musically talented, but I certainly can't do any ventriloquism. So how did the ventriloquism go?
So we sang the 50 states in alphabetical order. And so,
Wow.
yeah, and she was a poodle. Her personality was modeled after Dolly Parton.
Oh, okay.
So, you know,
Yep.
Tennessee. So, yeah, so we just sang the 50 states in alphabetical order, and it was had a little comedy thing where she was singing real loud at the end, and I'd put a little bone in her mouth to like end it off.
Hang on. You have to forgive my ignorance, but is 50 States of America, is that a song, or did you literally list out the 50 States of America in alphabetical order?
We literally listed out the 50 states in alphabetical order.
And you still do that now?
I can.
Can you quickly go
Yeah.
through? Because all
Yeah.
right,
Do you want me to just do you want me to do it, or do you want me to do it like full on like puppet mode?
if you're willing to do it full on puppet mode, I would
Oh
love to see
gosh.
that.
Okay. Just a warning. I have not performed this since 2018. Haven't practiced it since then either. So this is not very good. But okay, I can do it. Okay, I remember. Alabama and Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, California, Colorado, and Connecticut, New York, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, then Hawaii, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, so there's way to go. Kansas and Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, and good old Michigan, Minnesota, Mississippi, Missouri, and Montana. Then Nebraska 27, North 28, Nevada, next New Hampshire, New Jersey, and way down to Mexico, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania. Now there's 8, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and there's Utah, from one to through Virginia, then there's Washington, West Virginia, too. Could Wisconsin be the last one, or is it 49? No, Wyoming is the last state, and the 50 states arrive. And then I would put a bun in her mouth.
Well done. I think that's the funniest thing I've seen in a
I'm a
very.
little rusty now. It's been a while.
No, that was really good. Did you come up like did you write that sort of the jingle
Oh
yourself or
no,
is
it's
okay?
a lot of people learn it in elementary school. I learned it just for the talent performance. I don't know why I didn't learn it in elementary school, but it's a yeah, they teach it to you in elementary school to learn the 50 states, but the song that we learned
Wow.
in elementary school was called the 50 Nifty. And it was like 50 nifty United States from 13 original colonies.
I feel that song would be much shorter here in Australia because we only have like I think 7 or 8 states. So
Yeah.
our song would be much shorter. Does that ventriloquism? You're the second ventriloquist I've actually talked to. Funnily enough, you're not the first. But does that skill come in? Like, have you ever used that for a prank or something? Are you good enough to like prank someone with
Mm,
it?
I'm probably not good enough to prank someone with it, but it's just kind of a funny fun fact that comes up. And I did it during when I was in high school, my freshman year of high school, which is ninth grade. I did it in the talent show, and I was the only freshman in the talent show that year. And I honestly just like it, it was pretty brutal after that. Like people made fun of me so much for like the coming 3 years, but it got my name out there, and all the teachers on the first day of school, like they'd be doing attendance, they say Bailey guy here, and they'd be like, you're the puppet girl, aren't you? And I'd be like,
Puppet girl.
I am. That would be me.
That's not such a bad thing to be remembered for. I interviewed Miss Grand Australia, and she was remembered because for a long period of time, all she would eat is canned or tinned tuna and peas. Every day she would bring tinned tuna and peas, and she was working at a swimming pool store, check the chlorine, and one of her friend's mothers came in and said, "You're the tuna and pea girl." So I feel that being remembered as a puppet girl is probably better than being remembered as a tuna and pea girl. But I mean, last question on the ventriloquism before we get to pageantry. Um, did you always have that talent? Did you work on it? And if you worked on it, how do you practice it? Because I have no idea. Like if someone said, Adrian, you're going to have to do a ventriloquism act in a week. And if you don't do it well, that's it for you. You're going to be shot or something like that. Where would I start? How do you practice that?
Yeah, so it took a while to convince my parents to even let me try that out. Because I saw it for the first time. I was probably around 12, 11 or 12 when I saw it. a girl at Miss America performed it as her talent. And
Okay.
I was like enamored by it. I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. And coming from someone who has no talent, I was like, oh, that's my talent now. And so I was like, I can learn this. I can do this. So when I was like 11 years old, I messaged her on Facebook. I asked her who her ventriloquist coach was or how she got started. And so she put me in contact with her coach because there are ventriloquist coaches, which I didn't know. And I found a puppet online and yeah, named her Priscilla, got started, and that's how I did it. And I pretty much usually would practice with my hand, how I just did. But yeah, I did it for quite a few years. I believe I did it for about 3 years, but it took me about a
Wow.
year of practice before I ever even performed it. And even then it was not good that first time. But yeah, but that's my little fun fact.
Well, I definitely consider that a talent. It's not one that I've
Thank
seen
you.
very often. But so we get distracted with ventriloquism and the whole 50 states in alphabetical order. That's a thing. All right, let's start let's start with
It's
the
so
easy
American, the 50
question.
states.
Well, uh, well, learning them in alphabetical order as well, that's something else. I'm not sure if that would come in handy anywhere, but yeah, as I said, you guys have 50 states, we have 7 or I don't even remember. So, but we'll start with the easy question. With pageantry, how did you get into pageantry to begin with?
So I started when I was 5 years old in our county fair. And I actually, this is another funny story. So I ended up, well, I won't spoil the ending, but so it's my first pageant. It's the county fair. Again, another outdoor event. I have a theme with these, and so it was during like the intermission part. So all the girls had
Mhm.
already performed, but the results hadn't been announced yet. And this thunderstorm comes rolling through, and we're all outside. And I mean, the sky just falls, and it's raining, and it's storming, and lightning ended up striking the stage, and the entire thing collapsed. And all the little girls, because I was 5 at the time, we're all like under this little tent, and we're all just like, oh my gosh. And I just remember all the dads like jumping out of the audience, coming over to like rebuild the stage. They got in pageant dad mode. And a lot of the girls ended up going home because mascara was running everywhere. It was, people were crying. It was a whole thing. And I remember my mom came over to me, and then my neighbor who was with us, and she was like, Bailey, like, do you want to go home? It's storming. And I was like, are you kidding? That was awesome. Did you see that? That was so cool. And so I ended up staying, and I got first runner up in the pageant. But I'm pretty sure it's only because half the girls went home. And so they got taken out. But I personally love rain and storms, so I didn't mind it one bit. I thought it was really funny.
Well, rain is one thing, but the stage getting struck by lightning, you don't
Yeah.
take that as like maybe a sign from God that today is not your day, or you just went, yeah, I love this stuff,
Yeah, it was started out with a boom. So,
literally. Um,
yeah.
I have interviewed actually Miss Earth USA, Marissa Butler. She famously was actually struck by lightning through her window. She loves, similarly to yourself, she loves thunderstorms. Like some people are terrified of thunderstorms. She loves the sound of it. She's from Maine originally. She's in San Diego now, where apparently there's never any thunderstorms. So it is like her college years. I think she heard the thunderstorm. She was on the phone wearing big metal hoop earrings. She had a laptop near her, and she had a window open because she loved listening to the sound of the storm. And the lightning arced from outside through the phone or something and hit her, and she passed out.
Oh my
So
gosh.
again, not the first, but the second one who seems to love lightning, but it can end badly. So after that, beginning with a boom, as you said, what happened after that? Did you take a break, or have you been competing in pageantry since then?
Yeah, so after that, my mom did not think that I would continue with pageants. She really only she did pageants when she was a teenager.
Mm.
And she really only did it to lead to a modeling career because then she ended up modeling. And so she kind of just wanted to put me in a pageant just to get me out of my shell because I was the shyest child ever. And she was like, this kid has zero personality. We got to do something about that. And so she put me in a pageant so that I could get used to being in front of people, talking to people, being on stage, and just kind of, get me out of my shell, and
Yeah.
not thinking that I would stick to it. And then I just clung to it. I just really, I don't know, maybe it was just seeing the lightning there. I don't know, but I really enjoyed it. And it took me 7 years to win my first pageant. And I did about 2 or 3 a year after that first one. So that was quite a few pageants that I lost. But then when I finally, and I'm not even, the first one that I won, it wasn't even, it wasn't even like a state title, national, nothing like that. It was Snow Princess. It was Miss Snow Princess was my first title.
Right.
I won that when I was about 12. And so, yeah, so that's how it really started. But I remember when I was about 9, my mom, she was like, we need to find something that you're really passionate about and something that you're good at. And I was like, well, pageants are my passion. I really want to keep doing pageants. And she was like, well, something you're good at. And I was
Oh,
like, I'll get
yeah.
there. I'll get there. I promise. I was like, I know I'm not very good right now, but I'll get there. I'll do it. I can do this. And so I just stuck with it. I watched Miss USA and Miss America over and over and over again, like it was a movie.
Mm.
And eventually, I don't know, something just kind of clicked one day, and it all just started falling into place. So I'm really glad that for those 7 years I stuck with it and didn't, quit and find something I was good at. And now my mom is like, she's the most supportive pageant mom. Like
Yeah.
she cries when I'm on stage. She loves it.
I have to ask, you said your first title was Snow Princess. Does it
Yes.
snow in Tennessee?
We usually get one big snow a year, and it obviously it changes per region. But where I live in Nashville, we typically get one big snow a year, and it actually the day of the pageant was the snow that happened. So our one snow of the year, actually, we came out of the it was at a high school, and we came
Mhm.
out of the high school after the pageant was over, and I was like, y'all, it's snowing. Oh my gosh. And that was the first snow of the year and the only. So that was really cool that I was Miss Snow Princess, and it snowed that night. So that was cool.
You don't sound like you do anything normally. Your first pageant, the stage was struck by lightning. The first pageant you won, you had a snow dump and it was Snow Princess. And I was trolling through your Instagram feed. You're talking about your mum being supportive and the fact that, she cries when she sees you on stage. I've seen some of your winning reactions because you have won some probably big titles, obviously. I think it was when you won, was it Miss Teen Tennessee USA?
Well, yeah. So I was Miss Tennessee Teen USA 2019, and then USA National Teen 2021. Those are my two.
Yeah.
Those were the two most influential years of my life, I would say.
I saw your reaction when you were crowned Miss Teen Tennessee USA 2019.
Hmm.
You look like you almost were about to pass out. I mean,
Yeah.
do you still? I got to ask because obviously pageantry in America is so much bigger than well Australia, but many other countries as well. What were your feelings when that happened? Because if I'm correct, I think you turned around, you ran away, or you ducked down on stage. Like I can't. It was a properly like you look like you didn't know what to do with yourself. Can you still remember? And I bet you can. What your emotions were at that moment?
Yeah, that was such a good day. That was one of the best days of my life. And actually, the song that was playing during my crowning was "Best Day of My Life," which was kind of cool. But yeah, I remember so that my journey to winning Miss Tennessee Teen USA kind of goes how a lot of my pageant journey did. I That was my third try, and I was 16. So I was on the younger side.
Mm,
Um, and when you're 16 in such a competitive state, your chances of winning aren't super high. Age is
yeah,
always an advantage. And so going into it, I knew that I was ready to win, and that if the judges were to choose me, that I could take it on, and that I would do the best job possible, and that I was ready and prepared for it. But you never really think that it's gonna be you. But then I remember, sorry, wow, that's taking me back. The 2 years before that, my first year competing in Miss Tennessee Teen USA, I did not even make top 15. So didn't even make top 15. And then my second year, I was fourth runner up. And then my third year, I ended up winning. And so I think just standing up there, I had never been in that like holding hands with like first runner up or winner position
yeah.
before. And the girl that I was holding hands with, Elizabeth, she was one of my really good pageant friends. We'd known each other for years. And actually, she was Miss Tennessee. She ended up winning Miss Tennessee USA later on. in, I think she was 2021 Miss Tennessee USA. So that was really cool to see her journey come full circle as well.
Yeah.
But I remember I was just looking down at her sash. You know, they have the local sashes that say what region you're representing, and I was looking down at her sash and I was just like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be either Greater Nashville, which is mine, or I think hers might have been Middle Tennessee. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be one of us. This is crazy. And I just knew that in that moment that I would be so happy for her because we were really good friends. And so, yeah, but when my name was called, oh my gosh, it was just like my mind went blank. Actually, my mom almost passed out in the audience when that happened. She's told me she literally like almost passed out. So
I
yeah, that
mean,
was crazy.
give us an idea as to how your life changed from there on, because I think it's really interesting. Obviously, when you win the title, it's an amazing feeling. And then I think it's very interesting to see how a young woman's life can be transformed from winning a major title. Obviously, you've had another couple of big titles since then, including your current title, which we'll get to. But how has Bailey Guy's life changed since winning that in the Miss Tennessee Teen USA? How has it changed since then?
Yeah. I mean, overnight, my whole life changed. And that really changed. I mean, it changed everything about my life, honestly, winning that title, because all of a sudden I was just, I was never popular in high school. Like, I sat alone at the lunch table leading up to that. And then all of a sudden, I came back to school a couple days later, and the principal announces in the morning announcements. And by the way, congratulations to one of our students, Bailey Guy, on winning Miss Tennessee Teen USA. And I was like, well, if anybody didn't see it on my Instagram, they know it now.
I'm
And
assuming that you didn't sit by yourself for lunch much after that.
yes, and so a lot of people all of a sudden wanted to be friends with me, and it was kind of interesting navigating. Oh, yep, there she is.
Oh, that's why I was looking over there. I was trying to find it because I knew it was somewhere. So that's what I mean. You look like you collapsed.
Yeah, I fell to the ground. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I was just so in shock. I just could not even believe it.
I love watching your guys' reaction, even though like this is like 2019, so pre-pandemic and everything. And you
Yeah.
can literally see you guys can't hide the smile when you watch moments like this. I mean, does this still make you like your spine tingle and all the feels come back?
Yeah. Actually, on anytime I have a bad day, I will watch that video to make myself like feel better. Yeah, so there was me and Elizabeth, and I remember I just looked down at her sash and I was like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be one of us. It's gonna be one of us. Oh, I remember a conversation that I had. Let's see. It was like, oh, I remember, oh my gosh, I just remember the conversation that we had. So she told me, she said, you're gonna kill it at Miss Teen USA. So I don't know if she had some sort of feeling that it would be me. I don't know,
Premonition.
but she said, she was like, you're gonna kill it at Miss Teen USA. And you can see me in the video. I kind of like shake my head no in the beginning. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, it might be you. And so that's what I said to her. And then right after that, they called it, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So yeah, that was what we were
Amazing.
talking about. I remember what I was talking about with my first runner up for USA National Teen as well, actually.
So I interrupted you by showing you this video. I can see it's taking you back. So you were saying that the school announced that you'd won the pageant. So and you were telling us how
Yes.
your life changed after that.
Yeah. So immediately it felt like, I was, everybody knew, at least everybody had at least heard my name for that reason. If they didn't know me as the puppet girl, they knew me for that. And so all of a sudden people would actually call me Miss Tennessee Teen USA. Like I would be just walking through the hallway and people would be like, hi, Miss Tennessee. And I'd be like, hi. And it was so funny going from, nobody knowing who I was to all of a sudden, yeah, that happened. Oh, Isabella, there's a notification. Hi, Isabella, if you're watching. She was my
He's
sister.
commenting.
Yeah,
Yeah, she's commenting.
she was Georgia Teen USA 2019. So we were under the same director in Greenwood Productions. So yeah, I actually watched Isabella win, and we competed at Teen USA together. And she's gonna kill it at Teen Earth USA in, I think, January, maybe. I think
In
it's next.
January. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
she's driving up on New Year's Eve
Oh
itself, so she
wow.
won't be having a huge New Year's. Um,
Yeah.
Isabella, if you're still watching, I still want to see the Bake Off. She when I was interviewing her. She had a YouTube video about a cake that her and her friends, she had a bake off. It was hilarious.
Mhm.
Um, but that was, so this is probably, I guess, your first big title, but since then you've had
Yeah.
another couple of big titles. So trace for us now. So after this huge moment here to the current title that you have, and as I understand it, America's Ideal, the title that you have now, that's your first title as a Miss.
Yes, so that was my first Miss Pageant. Yeah, so I really made the most of my teen years, I feel like. I actually USA National Miss was the organization that I won USA National Teen through. And the reason that I wanted to compete in that one was because they had actually changed the eligibility right before I competed. And so I was 19 at the time. And so that's a Miss division for most organizations. But I didn't really
Right.
feel ready to be a Miss just yet. And then I saw that UNM had changed their age literally for that year to be teen with 16 to 19. And I was like,
Mhm.
this is perfect. I can be a teen for another year. This is great. And then I ended up winning that one. And I remember when I was holding hands with the first runner up, she was from Texas. And I remember saying to her, I said, whoever wins, let's promise to support each other. Let's cheer each other on all year, just regardless of who it is. Like, I'm going to support you and da 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 da. And so that's what I was talking about with her when in that moment leading up to that. But yeah, so now I'm 20 and I'm finally ready to be a Miss. But I asked the national director for UNM right after I won, I asked her what made her decide to change the rules that year, because that was the reason that I got to compete. And, it ended up working out the way that it did. And so she actually told me, she was like, well, God just told me that it was time to do that.
Mm.
And she was like, so clearly that was so that you could win, because that was the plan for you, was to hold that title, and you had to be 19 to do it. So that's why God told her to to change the age division, which is really cool. Yeah, I was in
You
shock.
look even more. So your signature move on winning a pageant seems to be the drop to the floor.
I did
This
drop to the
one,
floor.
you look like you
Yes.
can't close your mouth. Oh, now you're smiling. You, your jaw just dropped.
Yeah.
So you almost look more excited here. What were your emotions winning this one?
So leading up to that title, I actually had so much self-doubt and anxiety. And if you would have told me that I was going to win that one, I would have not believed you. Um, Whereas Tennessee Teen USA, I had a feeling of peace throughout the entire thing.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's kind of common for pageant winners to say that they had peace throughout the whole experience. And that's definitely true for my Tennessee Teen USA experience. But for this one, I had the opposite of peace. I was completely not expecting that at all. Like, it was a complete shock. Like, I cannot even put into words how shocked I
It
was.
looks like that on your face. We can
Yeah,
definitely see that.
and it did not dawn on me that I could potentially walk away with the title until they had called the top three.
Mm.
And so I was in the top three at this point. And, most people when they're in the top three, they're like, okay, I got this. But I was in the top three and I was like, there's no way this is going to happen. And, and then I was just backstage, and it was kind of a quiet moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was an intermission or what was going on, but I was just backstage kind of by myself in this little corner. And I just started praying, and I just told God, I was like, God, if this is what you have for me, then I'm ready for it, and I'm prepared, and I'm going to be the best that I can be at this title. If it is for me, I accept it. And
Mm.
that's what I said. And then I opened my eyes, and it kind of looked like it was an imaginary thing, but I was imagining a crown, the crown that crown was just kind of hovering about 10 feet away from me. And I like walked over to it, and I'm just kind of like looking at it up, and it's just, it's all in my imagination, but it felt very real. It felt like I was actually looking at
Yep.
this crown. And so I walked over to it, and I just said again, I said, God, I accept it. And then we had to line up to go on for top three, and it ended up working out. But I 100% did not think that I was gonna win that one at all. I had so much self-doubt. So that pageant happened in July, and in May I actually told my mom that I wanted to like get out of it, like disqualify myself. I don't know what the word
Okay.
is, but like quit.
Yeah. Yeah.
um because I had so much self-doubt. I was like, I don't even think that I can go through with this. I don't think I have a shot at winning. I don't think it's going to be me. And I can't deal with the amount of doubt that I have and the amount of
Mm.
anxiety that it's giving me. And I think I should just give the title back. And my mom was like, absolutely not. You're not going to do that. And so she really pushed me to stay in it, and I'm glad she did. But yeah, there was a time when I wanted to not what I considered not even competing because
Mhm.
I had so much anxiety about it.
I want to jump in because what you touched on there is obviously hugely important, and mental health is hugely
Mm-hmm.
important, and pageantry sometimes can not necessarily be the kindest place. But you had won a massive title, Teen Tennessee USA. And I think a lot of girls watching this, a lot of girls think that, oh, the answer to all my life's problems will lie in winning a pageant. And I always caution against that. I think it's
Yeah.
extremely dangerous. You had won a huge pageant, probably the biggest pageant you could at that stage in your state, in that system. And then fast forward to this pageant, and you were doubting yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Can can you just speak a little bit about what happened in between? Like what led you to that stage where you had anxiety, you were doubting yourself, despite having what any sane person would say, oh, you had massive pageant success, you've got this. So
Yeah.
can you talk about, even though the fact you won a huge pageant, that self-doubt and anxiety can still creep in?
Well, I think that's true that a lot of girls do, and I touched on that in my book, and how a lot of people do. They have this idea that, oh, if I could just win this title, or if I could just have that job, or if I could just have this relationship, or if I could just have, and they have like this mental marker in their head of that's when I'll be happy. That's when
Yep.
my life will feel complete. That's when I'll feel fulfilled. And so for a lot of pageant girls, they think if I could just have that dream title, then all my problems will go away. But
Mm.
in reality, from what I found, those 2 years, I like to say that those 2 years were the best and worst years of my life, the years
Wow.
that I had the reign,
Right.
that with those titles, because it is so amazing. There's so many opportunities, and you get to make such a difference. You get to make such an impact, and you get to touch so many people, and it's so incredible to experience that and to feel like you've been able to make an impact in someone's life. But on the inside, you also have so many struggles that you can't always talk. You feel like you can't talk about them,
Yep.
and you feel like you can't show this this ugly side to such a beautiful experience. But in reality, that is there and that exists. And when you do have one of those big titles, a lot of times you put so much pressure on yourself and you feel the need to always be perfect. And that's definitely what I felt throughout, especially the year with Tennessee Teen USA. I like it was crazy. I always felt the need to always, look really put together, and those are good things, but also you also have to give yourself some grace, because you're a human, you're a person, and
Mm.
you're not gonna be perfect, and so you can't hold yourself to that expectation. um, and then throughout my year with USA National Team, one of my biggest struggles was I was actually experiencing a lot of bullying at that time, um,
Wow.
within the industry. And so that was really, really a difficult thing. And that's still, I actually still, it's still pretty recent. I still have even anxiety from that. And so
Yeah.
that was really, really difficult to experience and to go through. And that was also something that
Yeah.
I could never put on social media. I could never talk about.
Yeah.
And so it is really hard, but there's so much more to having a title than what people
Mm.
sometimes see, and what title holders show, because I don't want to discourage anyone from going for those big titles, because I think if those are your dreams, then you should absolutely go for it, just
Yep.
like how I'm still pursuing
Yeah.
other titles
Yep.
that are my dreams. And so you can't let those things stop you. But I do think that awareness within the industry is really important, that people know that it's not a band-aid, that a crown is not a band-aid for
Yeah.
your problems. And a lot of times it can even be a magnifying glass on those things. Um,
Yep.
and so that's something
Absolutely.
that I didn't always realize, and that I see a lot of people, they go into it with this mindset that if I could just have this title, then I'll finally have confidence.
Mhm.
I'll finally have this. I remember, it's so being 16 of me, but when I was Miss Tennessee Teen USA or before I won, leading up to it, I was like, if I win Miss Tennessee Teen USA, this boy I have a crush on is definitely going to like me back. And he did not. So, so it doesn't solve all your problems. It doesn't make everything else just work out perfectly for you. And honestly, thank goodness he did not like me back. That would not have been a good situation. But so it all works out in the end. But you do go into it thinking that a title is going to fix certain things when it's not going to. You really have to fix those things in yourself beforehand.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because a title's not going to give you confidence. It'll give you opportunities, and it'll give you a lot of amazing things, but it won't give you that inner fulfillment that we all are searching for. It can't do
So
that.
if I was to ask you what advice you would give back to your 16-year-old self, you're so excited, won the title, and you think rightly or wrongly that everything is going to change now just because of that title. It's not, but not because of not really realizing that it's you who's done it, but you think the title is going to do it. So if you had to give advice to your 16-year-old self, or someone who's another teen who's, let's say, just won their dream title, what advice would you give them? But also, I think importantly, because most teens will have parents supporting them, is there any advice you would give the parents as well in terms of what's the best way to support your daughter who's just won? So what advice would you give yourself, and what advice maybe would you give the parents?
I would say, firstly, I'll give advice to the parents first. I think my biggest advice to the parents is let your child know that you'll be just as proud of them if they come in last place as if
Mhm.
they come in first place. Because even when I did not make top 15 at Miss Tennessee Teen USA 2 years before winning, I still came off the stage. My mom gave me a big hug. She told me she was so proud of me. My dad was crying because of how proud he was of me. They're both criers. We all are. But they let me know that they were just as proud of me if I had won than if I hadn't. And
Mm.
they never their how proud they were for me, and their love for me was never conditional on my
Yeah.
success. And so I think, even though every parent, should at least, have that in their own mind, that, well, I'm still going to love my child the same regardless. But I think just letting them know that, and really
Yeah.
making that clear, because a lot of
Yeah.
times, it is a lot of money, and kids can put a lot of pressure on themselves to not want to let their parents down if they know that their
Yeah.
parents have spent all this money on wardrobe and da 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 da. And they might think, oh, well, I have to win for my parents, because then all that money will go to waste. And I
Yeah.
think it's really important that parents let their kids know that you don't have to win. You don't have to, like, as long as you are your personal best, then that's all I can ask for. And so that's really also, if your child isn't truly into it, don't push them to do something they don't want to do.
Mhm.
That's another thing, because I see that a lot, where a girl, because I also coach some girls, and there was a
Yeah.
girl that I was coaching, and she was like, I honestly don't even want to compete. And I was
Yeah.
like, why? And she told me, and it's really sad that sometimes a parent can, it's more of the
Mhm.
parent's dream than the kid's
Yeah.
dream. And so I think that it's important to, just like how my mom came to me when I was 9, and she was like, we got to find something you're passionate about, something you're good at. And I chose pageants, but whatever that thing is, support them fully in that,
Yeah.
whether it's what you had imagined for them or not. And then for contestants, I would say my advice is, don't put your worth in that. And also
Mm.
visualize yourself winning, but also visualize yourself not winning. I think that that's a really big, and I actually got that advice at a really big pageant, that I was like, I have to win this one. And I was in that spot of like, this is so important. I have to win this. Like, I'm going to be crushed if I don't win. And someone gave me the advice. They said, well, and it was on finals night. It was the morning of the
Yeah.
final pageant. And they said, well, you've visualized yourself winning. You know what you're going to do if you win, but visualize yourself not winning.
Mm.
And I did. And it really allowed me to have a more realistic approach, because I saw how possible that was. And then I
Yeah.
ended up not winning. So I was really glad that I visualized that and prepared myself for that outcome as well. So yeah, I think that that's really important to realize that you're still the same person, whether you have the crown and sash or not. And I know that the crown it does change your life, but who you are as a person doesn't change. your dreams, your goals, your aspirations, your abilities, the impact that you can make, you can still do all of that without having that crown and
Yeah.
sash.
Yeah, 100%. I like to say you make the crown doesn't make you.
Yeah.
That's very interesting advice that that person gave you. Visualize yourself not winning, because that's not the typical sort of self-help advice. It's always
Yeah.
visualize you winning. There's no doubt. But at the end of the day, there's only one winner in
Yeah.
any pageant. And I wouldn't term the other people losers, but there's only one person who will walk away with the crown. So knowing what you're going to do if you've not happened to win, and as you said, you didn't even place top 15 at Miss Tennessee Teen USA, and then 2 years later you won the whole thing. So I mean, you could
Yeah.
have given up right away then. But knowing that what you're going to do with yourself if you don't win is hugely important. I think this is a good time to talk about your book, because visualization obviously is related to your book, which is
Mhm.
Goals in Action. Now, do you have a copy of the book there?
I do. Right here.
The
Goals in
back.
action. Yep.
So you can get that on Amazon. Let me just add that to the stream. So the Amazon link is in the description of this interview. Also, I imagine if you search for the name Goals in Action, 21 days of goal setting through daily devotions, and put Bailey Guy in there as well, you'll be able to find it. But talk us through. I'm a published author myself, so welcome to the club. Always nice to meet another author. Let's start with, where did the idea come to you? When did it come to you that you wanted to write a book?
So I started journaling, so writing in a journal, when I was 14 years old. And I've just always loved to write. I loved writing in my journal about my day. And I still do that. And I've finished over 60 journals now.
Wow.
So I love to journal. But I always have loved writing essays. English was always my favorite subject. And so starting when I was, with my very first essay when I was younger, every time that I would write an essay, I would want to read it to my dad. And so I would come into the kitchen. I'd be like, okay, I just finished. Do you want to hear it? And he'd be like, of course I want to hear it. And so I would read my essay to him. And my dad always, sometimes I'll be writing an essay about, some random topic, and he will literally
Mhm.
start crying because he's so proud of me.
Oh,
and,
right.
and
Okay.
no, not because it's bad, because he's proud of me.
I was going
And
to
he
say,
always, and he would always say things. He would be like, "You are just so brilliant, Bailey. Like, I just cannot even imagine being so good at writing." And he really hyped me up way more than what, my seventh grade essays on the Civil War deserved. But he would always just tell me, he'd be like, "You should write a book." And so ever since I was little, when I was, however old you are when you write your first essay, but he would always tell me, he'd be like, "You should write a book. You are just such an amazing writer." And da 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 da. And so that just always was in my mind, that I should write a book. And so then eventually, I just kind of felt like, after I won USA National Teen, I was like, this is probably y'all probably never get a better time than right now to
yeah.
sit here and just write this book. and, and I'd had the idea in my mind for about a year before I started writing it. And I've always loved goal setting. I've always been
Mhm.
really passionate about setting goals and about teaching people goal setting skills, and also helping people to know that success and failure aren't opposites, but they really do go together. And, I kind of use my pageant experience as an example of that, with my 7 years of not winning in the beginning, and then, not making top 15 at Miss Tennessee Teen USA, 2 years winning. So I've seen what failure can do and how it can really teach you and push you to grow. And so I feel like there's so many lessons in failure, and that so many people resist failure, and they're like, "I can't fail. I only want to do it if I'm going to win. And if I think that there's a chance I'm going to lose, then I'm not even going to try." But I feel like there's so many lessons. There's so much value in failure. And so reframing what we see as failure, and, you know, remembering that just because you lost, just because you didn't accomplish the goal you had set in mind, that doesn't mean that you failed,
Yeah.
because you got closer to something. You got closer to what that goal is, or maybe you found something that really was meant for you all along. Um, and so I think that that's really one of the biggest messages throughout Goals in Action, is how to set those goals, but also how to really navigate what happens when they don't happen, and how to use that experience to get you closer to what your purpose really is. So a lot of I actually have excerpts from my journal entries, from like my diaries, if you want to call it that. I feel like that's such a cringy word, so I call them journals, but
Daily
they're diaries.
diaries.
Yeah. So I actually have quite a few excerpts from my journals and diaries in the book. So I think that just kind of adds a little personal touch where people can read what was going through my mind in certain moments. I know the journal entry that I wrote the night before I won Miss Tennessee Teen USA is one of the ones that's in there. There's a lot of them. And the entries that I wrote leading up to USA National Teen, where I was having so much doubt and anxiety, some of those are in there. So it's just, I really, my entire heart is in that book. And so many of my tips and my secrets to success are in there. And I think it's really beneficial for people even who aren't in pageants. And I actually have stories from things like student council and from things that it's not just a pageant book. And so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really wanted it to be able to relate to people of all different walks of life. And there's actually, and I know this really, he's an elderly man, and he actually read the book, and he's like in his 80s, and he read the book, and he said that it changed his whole perspective on things. So even somebody who, who has lived way more life than I have, and who's probably has a ton of wisdom of his own, was able to gain something from it. And that was one of the biggest compliments that I've gotten on it. Was that
I think I saw he left a because there's some reviews on Amazon. I think
yes,
he
he did
left.
leave a
Is that
review.
him?
Yes, and I've actually never even met him in person, but he knows my mom, and so that's how he found out about the book.
I'll read it out here so people
Yeah.
watching or listening can. So, as a person in their 80s, I have not seen a book more inspiring and moving, and to think a teenager lived and wrote it. This book belongs to all age groups. It motivates me to pray each day and set my goal. Lord, open doors that I might be a blessing to someone today. Bailey drives home the point that setbacks become comebacks when we trust God through it all. Even our failures lead to better fulfilling God's purpose in our life. Failures are never final. That's apparently on day 14. Thanks, young lady, for having the courage, sacrificial love, and passion to share some of your marvelous life stories. I highly recommend this book to both old and young, poor and wealthy, weak and strong. That's got to feel some kind of way hearing that from an 80-year-old, right?
I actually printed that out because I wanted to be able to keep it forever, because it just meant so much to me to hear those things, and from someone who I've never even met in person. He knows my
Mhm.
mom, that really through her work, and so that means a lot to hear. And that was really one of my worries with writing a book, and that was kind of something that always stopped me was, well, maybe I don't know enough. What if my
Mhm.
advice and what if my knowledge isn't going to help anybody? What if it's wrong? What if
Yeah.
all the things that that are mental blockers that keep you from going after something. But every single day it is a devotional, and so it is considered a religious book. And I really just wanted for God to speak through me. And so every single day before I would sit down and write any of it, I would say a prayer and say that I don't want for it to be just my own words, that I
Mhm.
want every single word that I type to be sealed by God, approved by Him, and for His words to be flowing through me, and for whoever's going to read the book, for something to touch every single person that reads the book. And there were some days that I would have a plan for what I was going to write for a certain
Mhm.
day. And then after I would say that prayer, God would just put me in a different direction and be like, actually, you're going to write about this instead. And
Yeah.
so many of the stories are, I feel like, just really, it's just God was just going through me. And so that's really amazing to be able to know that the book really is, it has God's stamp of approval, because that's what I prayed for throughout the entire thing. So that's what really made me confident in being able to write the book, was knowing that it isn't just my words and it isn't just my thoughts, but that the God of the universe was going through me and giving me inspiration. It's definitely divinely inspired. And so that really means a lot to me, that people
Yeah.
can be inspired by it at all ages.
It's really interesting to me that it's a devotional because I was baptized, but at the age I was baptized, it's something like my parents made me do, and because
Yeah.
of that, I was almost quite resentful, and I never would have considered myself religious at all. And then this year, maybe because of COVID, maybe it was timing, who knows, I decided, you know what, I'm finally going to read the Bible. So this entire year, I've been following a 1 year Bible reading plan. So in about 2 weeks, I would have finished reading the entire Bible.
Oh
I
my
would
gosh,
say
that's
it's not
amazing.
easy.
It is
The
amazing.
Old Testament has some proper biblical wrath, let's put it that way. But I'm fascinated by the idea of a devotional because I don't know much about the religion outside of the Bible itself. I know there are Bible study guides. A devotional, assuming it's not the same. But I struggle because just at the end of the New Testament, and it's talking a lot about this idea that you by yourself as a human, you can't, if it was just like we could do it all right by ourselves, then we wouldn't have needed the sacrifice of Jesus. Like the whole point of that was because we couldn't do it ourselves.
Yeah.
And then I struggle sometimes with the idea of trusting God that he will show you the right way and letting go of that sort of that A type personality where I'm going to do it myself and I'll find a way. And the Bible is saying if that was the point, if that were the case, then Jesus wouldn't have needed to die for us.
Yeah.
Do you ever struggle with that yourself, like the letting go side of it, that God has a plan and it's only by faith in God that you actually get to where you want to get to?
Yeah, for sure. Trust is a big thing for me, and I always have to remind myself, put your trust in God, and I feel like God just He answers, and if you pray to Him and if you talk to Him, listen. He'll speak to you, and He'll tell you and He'll guide you on where to go. And so I like how you said that, and that's very true that we can't. I mean, some people, we can't do anything without God's love and joy and peace because I mean really the only thing that gets me through some of the anxiety that I've had as a title holder and some of those down and difficult times
Mm,
was God and trusting that God put me there and that there's a Bible verse that says bloom where you're planted and
yep.
so I'm just gonna I'm gonna do that and so even if it's in a really dark time I'm gonna still try to be a light and I'm gonna try to give God's light to the world. Um, and that's really one of my biggest goals as a title holder. But yeah, it can be difficult to release that control, especially when
Mm,
you are somebody who has such big goals and you're like, God, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because I'm seeing it. And
yeah,
sometimes he isn't seeing it because sometimes you're not seeing what he's seeing.
yeah.
And that's something it's really that's been a big lesson throughout my life is to fully put that trust in him because he ultimately has a way better plan than anything that you can come up with. And that's proven to be true throughout my life. I could not have done any of the things that I've done without God leading me every
Mm.
single step of the way. I mean, writing this book was one of the most terrifying experiences of my entire life. And I 100% would not have done it if God wasn't leading me to it because I really felt like God was saying, this is the time. And so I did it. But I could not have done that if I didn't have just full trust in Him.
Yeah.
And I think, as a title holder, that really is one of my biggest goals is to shine God's light. And this is just one little contribution. And one way that I can do that is through my book. And that's my goal is that people are touched by the book and that they do see that God is so involved and so there for them and so present. He's not just some random guy that's,
Yeah.
a billion years away, but he's so present. He is with every single one of us. And I kind of like to think of it. I have this visual that I've used before where, you know how that there's the earth and there's the sun and the moon, and the moon doesn't have any light of its own. But when we look up at it at night, it looks really bright, but it's actually just reflecting the sun's light. And so the sun is beaming off the moon and it reflects onto the earth. And so I kind of like to think of myself as like the moon, and then
Mm,
the sun is kind of like God, where I don't really have any light of my own. I'm not, I'm pretty bad at things. Like I really can't do much on my own. But because I have God's light shining on me, I can then reflect that onto the world. And I think that's really our
mm,
mission. That's really my mission in life is to just be that light for people, even if it's not a light that's coming from within myself. It's the light that's coming from God, and I want to be able to show the world that light. And so just like how the moon can light up the night sky even though it has no light of its own, it's just reflecting the sun's light. That's how I want to be. And when people might be in a dark place, I want to be that little, glimmer of light that shows them, hey, look at all this, look at this light that God has. And so I hope that my book does reach people and touch people in that way, and that it does ultimately not give any glory to me or my story, but that it gives glory to God. So that's the goal.
That's a really cool metaphor. The one about the moon. I've never thought of it like that. That's very, very cool. I have to say, I can't get this in Australia. When I when I saw the book, I'm like, because of
Really?
my own journey in religion, I'm like, I
Mm-hmm.
really want to get this book.
Yeah.
I can't get it. It's not
Oh
available in
no. Oh
Australia.
my goodness.
So I'm going to have a conversation with you after this, and I'll pay you to send me over a copy because I really want
Yeah.
to read this book for some. I'm not just saying that because you're on with me now. When I saw the book, I'm like, I think I really need to get my hands on this. And then, as you can see in the top right, it's currently unavailable over here in
Yeah, I
Australia.
didn't see that until just
It's
now.
available in America. Like, don't
Yeah.
panic. But in
I can
Australia,
definitely
because
ship it to you. I know it's
yeah,
available
well,
in Europe. There was someone from Europe who messaged me who had gotten it. So that's interesting that
yeah,
it's not available in Australia. I
there are
guess,
different. As a published author myself, there are different stores, and you have to you
yeah.
have to make sure they're available in each. It's anyway,
Yeah.
doesn't matter. But I
Yeah.
will get you to. I will pay you. I don't want you to send it to me for free. I will get the. I really want to read this book.
I would love to
But
send it to you. I would love for you to be able to read it.
that's amazing. I've got to ask, any future authoring plans, or like myself, were you so traumatized by your first authoring experience that you left it for 2 years? That's what I did.
Well, I did just publish this one in February. It came out February 1st
Right.
of this year. And I honestly, every idea and everything that I had in my mind and in my heart for what I wanted to put into a book is put right on these pages. I mean, when I say my whole heart is on these pages, it really
Yeah.
truly is. And so I do plan on writing a book eventually in the future because I want to be a motivational speaker someday and a
Mhm.
motivational author. And so I definitely will write a book again someday. It might be 5 years from now, it might be 10 years from now, but a book will have my name on it again eventually. That is definitely, I love the process. I love being able to write, and I love writing, and I love writing in my
Mhm.
journal. I love writing essays. And so I would love to write another book someday. I'm just gonna wait for God to give me another idea.
Yeah, absolutely. When you've left your heart and soul on the pages of a book, you can't just do another one. I think there are some people who just say, "Oh, you just sit down and write every day." But I can see some wisdom in that to get better at the skill of writing. But also, I
Yeah.
feel like there's a moment that you're inspired,
Hmm.
and there's some moments when you're just not, and I don't think you can manufacture the inspiration or fake it. Let's move on. We've spoken about your book and God and religion, so I think now is a good time to talk about the Compassion Conference. So I say that
Yeah.
because compassion is a huge thing, in religion and with God.
Hmm.
So talk to us about what the Compassion Conference was.
Yes, so the Compassion Conference that was kind of my baby for the year as USA National Team. That was my biggest goal with that title, because honestly, a lot of people don't know this, but when I won that title, I was not planning on writing a book that year. Was not planning on it at all, and it was that push from God. Honestly, that was the
Mm,
reason that I did it. But I was not planning on doing it, and so, but what I was planning on doing was this Compassion Conference, and so it was kind of my plan that I talked about to the judges and then my onstage question, and it was so amazing to get to see it come to life. But yeah, so it was a two-part conference, and it was virtual, so I wanted to reach as many people as possible, and it was free, so accessibility.
mhm.
But Miss USA 2009, Kristen Dalton Wolf, was my guest speaker, which was so cool because she's one of my favorite Miss USA's. If not my favorite. Well, I have a few favorites, but I love her. And so it was amazing getting to have her on my conference. But the first part was goal setting, because I love goal setting. I'm really passionate about teaching people those goal setting skills and how to reach their goals and how to really reach their full potential and how to discover what their purpose is, because everybody has a purpose. And so
Yeah.
So that's what the whole first part of the conference was about. And then the second part was about compassion and how to use your goals and success and any sort of platform that you've built to then help other people and benefit other people and give to other people. And so that's what it was all about, was really just encouraging, especially pageant girls, to not just wear the crown, but to genuinely do something with it. And to
Yes.
not just have it sitting on a shelf and to not just have it on your Instagram page, but to use it to think, okay, what's something that I can do to give back to other people that I could never do as well on my own? What's something that I can do uniquely right now in this time, specifically with this title and in this place that I've been put? And so that was what the Compassion Conference was all about, was about goals and how to use your goals to then help other people, help benefit their lives as well.
The goal setting is all well and good, but you didn't call it the goal setting conference. You called it the
Yes.
compassion conference. So I got to
Yes.
imagine you have a particular connection to the word compassion.
Yes. So it was named the Compassion Conference because there's a Bible verse and it has compassion in it as one of the qualities. I'm trying to think, I don't want to say it wrong, but it's Colossians 3:12. And so that's the Bible verse that has compassion in it. Let me think. I think it's patience, compassion, kindness, humility, and there's one more. I always forget that last one. But it has 5 different qualities that as chosen people that we should have. So that's what the verse is about. And so I plucked compassion from that Bible verse, and that's what I named it Compassion Conference for. In addition to that, the service organization for USA National Miss was called Inspire, and there were 3 pillars to Inspire. There was Inspire Earth, Inspire Kindness, and Inspire Compassion. And so when I saw that that compassion was one of the words in this Bible verse, and it was also one of the 3 pillars of the service project for USA National Miss, that's where I was like, that's it. That's the word. I have to use compassion. And so Compassion Conference really got its name from the connection between those 2 things.
Amazing. I mean, you mentioned the pillars. One was kindness, one was compassion.
Yes.
Where
And
do you
kindness
see
is
that?
in that Bible verse as well. So I guess theoretically I could have named it Kindness Conference, but
Yeah, but C and C. It
yeah,
goes. It goes.
yeah.
It
So
goes
compassion it
together
was.
well. Where do you see the difference between compassion and kindness? Because obviously they're in the same ballpark. But for you, what's the difference? Because people always say be kind. That's Instagram, sort of Instagram. Be kind always, and I agree with that. Compassion is slightly different, right?
Yeah.
Where do you see the difference between being kind and being compassionate?
I think kindness is more of an action and compassion is more of a feeling and a way of being. And so kindness, random acts of kindness, holding the door open for someone, that's an example of being kind, and just, the little things you can do to show somebody, to show someone kindness, and to make them, make their day easier. And then compassion is really a way of life. It's having this deep urge to help people and to truly make a difference, more than opening the door, and more than this, more than that. But yeah, compassion, I really feel like that's where the difference is. And as title holders, we need to always have compassion. It needs to be more than just a service project that we can post about on Instagram. It needs to be truly the need to help people and to benefit people. And I really, when I go out and when I'm talking to people, I want to be a motivational speaker. So I take any opportunity I can to be able to speak in front of people. And when I do that, I really want to always make sure that I'm speaking from my heart. And even though I will always have a plan of what I'm going to say, I also want to give myself that room where if something comes to me in the moment, or if God starts talking to me and is like, hey, you need to talk about this, I want to be able to give myself that room to really just share from my heart. And because I truly, it's not about this written plan. It's not about, what I've said I wanted to do. It's not about any of those things that I think sometimes people put their focus on. It's not about the outside appearance, but truly impacting people and truly making a difference in their lives and giving them just that little nugget of wisdom, if that's what I want to do when I'm speaking. So whatever your passion is, whatever skills you have, really just making sure that you're using those for good and to truly have an impact on people. is really what compassion is all about. And so I think that's such an important quality of a title holder, is to have that deep passion for helping other people.
100%. You asked me how long the interview would go for, and I said normally under an hour. We've been on for over an hour, and it seems like only 20 minutes. I really
Yeah.
enjoyed talking to you, but let's move towards the close. Just before we move towards a close, um, I mean, we've talked about so many things. What do you do outside of pageants and authoring? What do you do just to de-stress, or just randomly, like, is it Netflix and pizza? Is there a hobby apart from ventriloquism?
I do a lot of journaling, so I've already
Hmm.
touched on that. Lately, okay, so this is a funny fact, but I never watch TV because the TV in my house stopped working, and it's been years, and we just haven't. My
Right.
dad's like, we need to get this fixed, and I'm like, why bother?
Yeah.
We actually just got it fixed last week, but now I'm
Right.
like, well, I haven't watched TV for years. But the one show that I will watch on my friend's Hulu account, because I don't even watch it enough to have my own Hulu account, but
Hmm.
I've lately been watching How I Met Your Mother, and it's so cute. I love that show, and so I've been watching that lately as kind of just like.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I never watched TV. Like, this is the first TV show that I've watched literally since I was in elementary school. So that's pretty
Wow.
crazy. And then outside of, random hobbies that I have, I recently joined a sorority at my college. So Alpha Omicron Pi. I don't know if they have sororities in Australia, but it's a big thing in America.
No.
Um, and so I just joined a sorority. So that's been really cool to have so many friends and sisters within my own college, which is that's so special to me.
Mhm.
And I never saw myself being in a sorority. I never really thought that I would do something like that, but it just kind of landed in my lap. And so I was like, you know what? This is an opportunity that I can learn about other people and grow, and I want to take it. And so I did it, and yeah, I've been really enjoying that too.
Interesting you mentioned sororities, because I don't know if you can see in the background, just underneath our webcams, it says "Be more than just a queen, make an impact." And behind that is, I wanted to, because I love the idea of sororities, girls,
Yeah.
women supporting women. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if pageantry was more like that? It wasn't just a title for a year, but it was an ongoing sorority. So
Hmm.
I called it the Pageant Sorority, and the actual Greek letters are behind our webcams. You can't see them now. But no, we don't have sororities here in Australia, but I love the idea of them, and I would love to see more of that in pageantry, because I feel there's a lot of commonality between pageantries and sororities, and the idea of
There is.
women supporting women to be the best versions of themselves, and also, as you've pointed out already, service beyond yourself,
Yeah.
compassion, not just me, look at me, but actually going out and helping people, I think is hugely important. Uh, okay, well, the final 10 questions, just before the final 10 questions, anyone you want to give a shout out to for supporting you along your journey?
Oh goodness. Let's see. Two of my
Take your time.
best pageant friends, Victoria Vredevog, she lives in Arizona. I love her. Natalie Woodward, she lives in Virginia. Love her too. Sarah Brickle, she's in Florida right now. Love her. Those are my three best pageant friends. They're so supportive. I love them with all my heart. Miss Jackie, she was the USA National Miss Director. I love her. She made such an impact in my life. She helped me so much with my book because she had actually written a few books. And so
Oh,
she
cool.
was my mentor throughout that process. So I love her with all my heart. She was amazing. My parents, of course, they're both so supportive. David and Kelly Guy. But yeah, I think just anybody who's read my book, anybody who's
Mhm.
supported me on that journey, thank you. Like, I seriously, that means so much to me. About 350 to 400 people, last time I checked, have purchased the
Wow.
book. And
Yeah.
most self-published books actually max out at around 250. That's the statistic, that's like where they typically cut out. But yeah, so far we've gotten about 400, and that's amazing to me. Like, oh my gosh, like the fact that there's 400 people in the world who have bought my
Yeah.
book and read my book and thought it, like that's crazy. It blows my mind. So so anybody who's bought my book, or everybody who's watching this, if you're a supporter of the pageant project and you're wanting to improve in the pageant world, this is definitely a good way to do it, is just by listening to title holders and getting that kind of advice. And so thank you for having such a great way for people to have that information, because I think so many people wish that they could have a conversation with, you know, the title holder that they look up to or aspire to be, and you're making that so accessible to so many people by holding these interviews, and then allowing, you know, anybody who wants to tune in to watch it and to learn from it. So I think that's so amazing. So shout out to you.
Thank you. I would say the statistics on authoring are even worse than what you think. And I say this because I coach people. I have courses up on teaching people how to get published, and it's most people, a lot of people struggle to even sell one copy of their book. One. So to have sold as many as you have, hats off. That's no small feat.
Thank you.
So congratulations. All right, Bailey, the final 10 questions. Here we go. Number 1, what is your favorite word?
Bubbles. It's
You're
just
the
such a fun
second
word,
person.
bubbles.
You're
It's my
the
code
second
word.
person who
Anytime I
told
have
me
to
that.
anytime I come up with a code word, it's always bubbles. Some people say apple pie, but mine's bubbles.
Bubbles. So it's one of those words you just can't say without laughing and giggling at it. I don't know why. It's like bubbles. It's like a
Yeah.
funny word. Number 2, what is your least favorite word?
Oh, any bad word. I don't say bad words. So any word that's
Cuss
like
words.
offensive, or yeah, I don't use any. I just steer clear of those. So I just think they're unnecessary.
Probably don't come to Australia then. We play fast and loose with some of the words we say. Number 3, in life, what gets you excited? What turns you on?
I think, let's see. I really love goal setting, and I love it. Ooh, I really love, actually, something I genuinely, that just like, I think the thing that makes my heart feel most alive is giving people pep talks. I love giving people pep talks. Like, it's fun to set my own goals. It's fun to have my own dreams, but helping people reach theirs and like
Yeah.
giving them a pep talk and being like, you can do this. I've been told by so many people that I give the best pep talks, and I just love doing it. It just makes me feel so alive. I get so hyped up giving people pep talks.
You said you want to be a motivational speaker. It sounds like you're going to go down the coach route as well, because that's exactly what a coach has got to do. And the people who make the best coaches, in my experience, are the ones who enjoy helping others more than they almost enjoy helping themselves. And I totally resonate with that. So that was what turns you on. What about what turns you off?
That's a good one. Let's see. You know, sometimes I'm a bit of a procrastinator. So I think a lot of times whenever I put too much on my plate, I tend to not do any of it. And so I think those times, and I've kind of been dealing with this lately, of like, you know, because finals just happened for me. So
Yeah.
you know, final exams, things like that. And I mean, it was a struggle, because I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many different exams I have to study for. I got to do this, I got to do that. I'm going out of town. I got to prepare for all these things. And so sometimes when so many things get put on your plate, then you're just like, I'm just going to sit on my bed and watch How I Met Your Mother.
It's good to know that you're not always perfect. That's reassuring.
Nowhere near it.
Question 5. What sound or noise do you love?
I love I love like bird noises and like duck quacking. Like quack quack. Like just like duck quack. I actually went duck hunting for the first time recently. It was about just a few weeks ago. It was in November, and it was quite an experience. And I had to wake up at 3 a.m. to go duck hunting. And but I love hearing the birds, just seeing them fly by. Quack 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 quack.
I saw your eyes light up when I said the question. I was like, oh, this is going to be a good answer. It's like, you really do love bird sounds. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
What about question 6? What sound or noise do you hate?
Ooh, okay. You know, like picture paper? Like when you get a picture printed, pictures rubbing against each other. It like, oh, it bothers me
Is it
so
like
much.
a squeaky?
Yeah,
squeak?
like that, like squeaky, like, and it's like specifically picture paper. Like something about that noise of like pictures, like that weird noise that they make when they like rub against each other.
Yeah.
I make a lot of photo albums. I love scrapbooking and photo albums, and so I deal with a lot of pictures. I actually, right before this, went to Walgreens to pick up some pictures for my next photo album, but and then like rushed home for this. But yeah, picture paper, rub it against each other is not my favorite sound.
I can't say I've heard that one. I've printed pictures out many times, but I haven't rubbed them against one another. So
Yeah.
I can kind of imagine, but
Yeah.
yeah, it
Or
doesn't
like when
sound
your
very pleasant.
fingernail rubs against it, it makes the same noise. Just like anything rubbing
Mm.
against picture paper, it just like makes my skin crawl.
Yeah, you're not looking very comfortable talking about it, if I'm honest. Let's move on. Question 7. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
Time travel. I think it'd be really cool. I don't think I'd want to go into the future. The future scares me a little bit, but I'd like to go into the past.
How far back?
Yeah, I'd really like to go back and like talk to George Washington and
Mhm.
well, you're Australian, but
Well, I know George Washington.
yeah,
Yes, I
yeah.
know that much.
But I just think it'd be really cool. Even I mean, Jesus, like he was,
Mm.
2,000 years ago. That would, I wish that I could just go back, but like take a camera with me and like
Mhm.
take pictures of everything. That would be so much. That would be so cool. Did you know? I'm really into the Titanic. Did you know that every picture that we have from the Titanic, like on board, was from one person who took those pictures? And that if that
No.
one person would not have made it, we would have no pictures from like the
Oh,
inside of the
wow.
Titanic.
No, I had no idea. I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by the Titanic, but that's because I used to be into giant warships, and the Titanic is a giant ship, and the story
Yeah.
of why and how it sank, because they said it was unsinkable, which
Yeah.
always seems to me to be a bad idea to say that.
Yeah.
But no, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, that
Fun
was a
fact.
random fact. I feel like I've learned a lot today. Question 8. What job would you most like to attempt?
To attempt, let's see. If I could sing, I would have loved to have been like a country music singer, or some sort of a singer. I think that that would be so much fun, but I can't. Also, I would really like, and I probably wouldn't do it under the political climate today, but I have always been really interested in politics, and I think
Mhm.
it would be so much fun to be like the first female president of the United
Mm.
States. That would be so cool. But my only thing is I don't want 50% of the population or 50% of the
It hates
United
you.
States to not like me. And so
Yeah.
there's that. And so I probably will not go into that field. But I actually had a job a couple years ago. I was a volunteer recruitment director for a campaign for US Senate. So that was really cool. So I worked
Wow.
I had a little political job, and it was actually before I was even old enough to vote when I first got the job. And then I turned 18 during the job and got to vote for the first time for the guy I worked for,
Oh,
which
wow.
is really cool.
There do seem to be more and more pageant competitors who are interested in pursuing a career in politics. And
Yeah,
obviously, not all of them are American, and in other countries, they have different political systems.
yeah,
But I think it's a good thing because, if we ignore, I used to be not interested in politics at all. But then I think we saw what happened. If we don't take an interest in it, then we don't basically, I think we have a duty to
yeah,
use our voice. Let's put it that way. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see a pageant girl at some point become I'm sure it's probably happened already. I don't know, become a prime minister or a president of a country
yeah.
somewhere. That'll be a day. Well, that's a job you'd like to attempt. Question 9, what job would you definitely not like to attempt?
I don't think I could ever be a firefighter. And I have so much respect for firefighters because I could not do it. I mean, to run into like a burning building, oh my gosh, fire is like one of my biggest fears. And so, yeah, I have a big fear of fire. Like I'm okay with like well, actually candles. I'm a little bit scared of
Wow.
candles now that I think about it. But yeah, I do not like fire. And so I could never be a firefighter ever.
Fair enough. Final question. This will be an interesting one to hear your response. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Ooh. Well, there's always that saying of like that he says like I think like well done or something like
Mm.
that. I think honestly, he doesn't have to say a single word. Just just seeing his face and just being in his presence would be more than more than
Yeah.
amazing. So yeah, I think just, I mean, any word that God could possibly say to me is going to be with love, and with,
Mm.
you know, more love than the world even has in the entire universe. And so yeah, whatever word he wants to say. But yeah, job well done. um I'm proud of you. I love you. Those would definitely be things that would mean so, so much to me. And the amazing thing is, kind of like God says this to us every single day. So I
Yeah.
don't even have to get to heaven to hear him say that. But yeah, that would be amazing. They say that when you get to heaven, that you see people that you knew from your life. And so
Yeah.
my mom always says that, assuming she passes away before me, but she always says that she wants to be the head of the welcoming committee.
We're thinking ahead here.
Yeah, and so that's what she wants to do. She's gonna apply for the job, I guess. I don't know, but she definitely says that she wants to be the first person there when I get to the gates of heaven. So she'll be
Right.
head of the welcoming committee.
We're really, really thinking ahead. It's like, what job would you
Yeah.
like after you die? I'd like to be head of the welcoming committee in heaven. That's really forward thinking. That's goal
Yeah.
setting.
Yeah.
201,
Yeah.
if we can put it that way. Well, Bailey, it's been a genuine pleasure having you on. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you so much for having me. It has been so much fun, and all the topics we've covered. This has been, I love this. You know, sometimes I always get nervous before these interviews, but this is really what I love to do. I love just being able to talk to people and meet new people. And we really covered all my favorite topics: God, pageants, goal setting.
We
So
certainly covered a fair few.
yeah, so thank you so much for having me, and thank you to all the listeners for listening as well, because I know we just talked for an hour and 20 minutes. So thank you for for still being on.
I did say it depends on how much you have to say, and it seemed like,
Yeah.
well, together we had a lot to say. So
Yeah.
I will keep you on the line for just a second whilst I hang up with the audience. But thanks to everyone for watching, whether it's live or on the replay, and we'll speak to you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority Access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there, and see you in the next video.